Alrighty, folks. I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. It is Friday. I have just woken up. The camera will be on in a sec, but first I want to show you something that I've been looking at the past few days, and that is my next day ahead, and I've got things to do. So we're doing some Hobby Nightmares today, and we're jumping in. I've been asked to comment on political things in the United States. I don't want to do that simply because that's not the kind of channel that this is, really. Safe to say, the one thing I will say on both incidents, okay, a lot of you need to look around your inner circles right now. Look at your Facebook, look at your X or Twitter, look at people that you've got in your life. If you see anybody celebrating this, exorcise them. Like, straight up like a demon. Just exorcism. Gone. Be a Grey Knight, right? Don't literally be a Grey Knight. Don't like chop them up, But, tell them. Just don't even tell them. Just delete them. Gone, right? You don't need... I don't care what political leaning you are. If you're there celebrating stuff like this, like people, being wiped out like this in front of their families, then you're not somebody I want to be around. So, you are the enemy. I don't see you, if you're right, left, or indifferent, I don't see you as an enemy at all. Like, I think we're all, we're all in this together to a certain extent. But if you're somebody who does something like this, you are absolutely the enemy. You're crazy. You're absolutely crazy. So pay very close attention to the people around you and to your Facebook groups and things like that. And anybody that you know who does something like this, either mark their card and say, okay, alright, I know who you are now. Or get rid of them entirely. Just gone from life. Goodbye. You're not part of my life anymore. I've had to do that several times this week. Unfortunately. Because I won't be around somebody who celebrates the passing of a father in front of his wife and kids. For saying some pretty milquetoast things. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to do it, so... if that's who you are, feel free to unsubscribe and go elsewhere for your content. Because it's not who I am, and it's not who I want to be around. I don't care what political leaning you have. You should have the right to say whatever you want to say. And even if you disagree with me, you've completely got the right to say whatever you want to say. Some ideas are bad, some ideas are good. We'll get... I've always been of the opinion that we'll get through it together, but if this is where we are... Okay, that's all I'm going to say on it. Alright, I'm not going to say anything else. I know people on the Discord and a few emails that I got were asking for more of an in-depth thing. I'm not going to do it. It's not the kind of channel we are. But if you see any extreme stuff like that around you, my advice to you is to sidestep it. And be like, okay, I'm that person. Say, look, until you get your head sorted out, you're not involved in my life. You don't need it, man. It's evil. It's pure evil. Anyway, moving on. Samuel says, hello North, my name is Samuel and I'm 19 years old. Well, good for you, young man, good for you. All of life ahead of you. I'm not bitter at all. I really love watching your content on YouTube and appreciate everything you do, thank you. Spreading the word, so to speak. I got into Warhammer around a year ago, so I'm pretty much fresh into it. I don't play tabletop, but I collect the miniatures and I have a small collection of the books. Since I respect you and your opinions on your channel, I was wondering if you would like to choose what Legion I paint my Space Marines as in the Horus Heresy. I got the Saturnine box from Wayland Games when it was released. I'm still building most of the stuff. I understand it's not what the email is intended for, since it's for the Hobby Nightmare stories, but I thought you'll have a suggestion or two. Thank you for reading this. There's no rush to get back to me, so feel free to reach out when you have the time, and have a good day or night, dependent on when you read this. Okay, he says, I'm a fellow Brit. Okay, I'm not going to dox you. Okay, Feels Friday. This is the kind of thing we do on Feels Friday on Hobby Nightmares. Not knowing... The reason why I've chosen to read this out is mainly because not knowing what to do with your army is a Hobby Nightmare in and of itself. Space Marine armies get this more than a lot of others because we've got so many options in terms of paint scheme and what our chapter's going to do. I've jumped around several different ideas constantly, all the time. Right now, I'm in love with the Exiled Blades. I'm doing them all the time. And the silver and purple and all that's awesome. But I'm also thinking about doing a siege army, a siege Space Marine army, like dirty dudes, you know, down in the muck with basilisks and stuff. Something about doing that, that'd be pretty cool. And my idea for them is that they're going to be sort of like they're called the Iron Wardens, and they don't really leave the world they're on. They just, because they guard some really bad stuff. You know, greater demons, all sorts, Catan shards, whatever. Like, you know, they've got this prison. Their fortress monastery is a prison. And they basically are just defending a siege all the time, because these things try and get out, and things try and free them, you know, and that's just what they do. They hold these things in place. Just an idea that I had going around in my head. And maybe they go out, and the only time they leave their home world is when they go to capture something, you know, and bring it back to be experimented on by the Inquisition or something. It's just a cool idea, and I just thought I'm going to run with it at some point. So it's all about... It's not about what armor you want to do for the rest of your time in the hobby. That's the one thing you need to get into your mind first and foremost. It's about what kind of a project you want to be doing right now. And forgive yourself for doing that. Forgive yourself for looking at your models that you haven't finished yet and going, do you know what? I'm going to come back to these. Make sure you put them on display so that you know you'll come back to them, because you've got to be painted. They're reminding you all the time. But don't feel ashamed about wanting to try something else, right? Even if you get one squad done, this is why I always say, go a squad at a time. You know, the Saturn 9 box set's great, but you need to really go a squad at a time. One squad at a time, nice and steady, to get your force up to snuff. Because that means, when you finally get tired of it, you've got 2 or 3 completed squads. So you can say, project finished, and move on, you know? And to be honest with you, dude, I don't know enough about you to suggest what kind of a legion you should do. I know what I would do. So if I'm doing traitor legions, dude, you're so sport for choice. Sons of Horus and Lunar Wolves are always cool. They never will not be cool. They're always cool. Alpha Legion Callers 2, pretty cool, but they're kind of cringe. So Iron Warriors, because you know I'm going to be based and seeing Iron Warriors. Right, I'm going to have a quick sip of my tea. So you know what happens? The camera goes off because it has a microphone on it for some reason. Lovely. And back we are again. Okay. Iron Warriors, yeah, base choice for traitors, simply because they're just the best legion. They just are. They're just the most awesome legion. And probably Dark Angels for loyalists, because the look, right, the black and white, the checkered pattern, the red on there as well, dude, looks amazing. Absolutely looks amazing. So that's what I would go for if I were you. But that's me. That's just me. Like, you need to look about what you're into. I'll tell you what we'll do. Comment section down below. Samuel needs a legion. Type in what legion you think he should be, and we'll count them up, and I'll put it as a pinned comment at the top for Samuel to look at, so he knows what legion he's about to do, a la the Northern Exile community. We have given you your orders, sir, and that's what we're going to be doing, right? That's what we'll do. I absolve myself of all responsibility. Okay. We got Darko Man. How's it going, man? He says, greetings, North. You may name me Darko Man, as it's my YouTube name. Okay. Long-time viewer, first-time emailer. Alrighty. That's all fine and good. This isn't really a hobby nightmare. It is a Reddit. It's kind of a hobby nightmare. But a comment on recent lore I saw on a Facebook page. A page that is generally against Modern Games Workshop. Alright. Some were heralding this as a "woo, Grimdark is back" moment, but to me, this screams somebody at Games Workshop having learned of Black Templars via memes and then deciding, I don't like Black Templars, they are evil crusaders, and then going off to make them look as evil as possible, even though this isn't really the Black Templars style. They aren't maniacal like word bearers, just zealous like them. Sure, they don't actively care about humans, but they don't go about callously killing them either. We saved that Iron Warrior Successor chapters. I'm looking at you, Marines Malevolent. Yeah. Here's the thing that I come across quite a lot. Games Workshop these days, it was only a matter of time before the memes made their way back in to the lore. Do you know what I mean? So the lore was here. Sorry, whacking my microphone. The lore was here, right? It starts here, and it goes all the way over to memes, because people see it and they make memes about the law. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Okay, fine. Now, the guys who made this law retire or leave the company, and the guys who join Games Workshop, some of them made these memes, and they go back in, right? And then more memes, more memes, more memes, and then those memes start invading the actual law and start changing the law to resemble the memes. That's not good, and this is why I'm generally against meme culture. It's not my thing. I've covered it once or twice on the channel. It's generally not what I'm into. I'm into the lore, you know. I can enjoy a meme as much as the next person, but what they represent in 40k, unfortunately, is a bastardization of what 40k is, eventually. That's what it is. He says, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Games Workshop is trying to put some grimdark back in the setting. After hearing many complaints about how the setting has moved towards noble, bright, and Saturday morning cartoon vibes, but personally, it feels just wrong to use Black Templars as your, oh, Crusaders are all evil. Welcome a North's history rant in 3, 2, well, yeah, again, you know, people don't understand the Crusades. I will say that. I'm not a Christian, right? I'm not wholly religious, but I'm a historian, and I do look at both sides. Anybody who tells you that the Crusades weren't a justified response to a very real threat encroaching from the east is lying to you. Okay? You know, everybody in that age was barbaric. Everybody. Okay? Everybody was absolutely barbaric back then. And the Christians were seeing their Holy Land, you know, disappear, essentially. You know, you get swallowed up by several very large and warlike peoples. So they decided to go and do something about that. There's a bunch of other things happening at the time. It's too much to get into right now. It's safe to say, whilst the Crusades were brutal, they were inevitable. They were literally inevitable. There was no... Everybody looks at Pope Urban's appeal to go on crusade as this watershed moment. Dude, that had been coming for like 20, 30 years. Alright, everybody, they were all ready to go. They were all... Every king in Europe was going, let's do it. We just need someone to organise this. We want to go. We want to go and do this. You know? And... the Pope stood up and said, "Okay, well, let's go then." You know, that kind of thing. It wasn't this, you know, evil. Oh, you know, the modern historians will have you think that Pope Urban standing and talking to the Crusaders is akin to, you know, the First Order speech in one of the Star Wars films. You know, where all the stormtroopers are lined up. Oh, you know, that kind of. Not like that at all. Okay. If you talk about the Crusades that way. Tell me you don't know anything about history and you've done zero research or reading without telling me you don't know anything about history and you've done zero research or reading. Right? That's when somebody tells me the Crusades were like, no, they weren't justified at all. Like, no, you haven't read anything. Shut your face. By both sides as well. By both sides. Like even in the Muslim chroniclers at the time, we'll talk about the Crusades going, yep, here they come. They're not going, oh my god, what are they doing here? Oh my god. No, they're like, no, yeah, we were expecting this. Here they come. That kind of thing. Why are we fighting amongst ourselves? They're on their way. And oh my god, they're here. Okay, right, let's fight. You know, that kind of a thing. You know. And this is from a guy, like, one of my favourite historical people of all time is Saladin, right? He's just such a cool character. The more I find out about him, the more I kind of admire him and think he's really cool. But, like, again, from a middling standpoint, a historian's point of view, yes, they were brutal. Yes, I wouldn't want them to happen ever again. But at the time, you know, they weren't just justified; they were inevitable. The Crusades were inevitable. They were happening either way. Anyway, so and this feels far more akin to somebody at Games Workshop not liking old lore and having to push the evil chapters to look as bad as possible versus the new, modern, noble, bright Imperium that is still somehow barely holding itself together, even though massive reinforcements and beating Demon Primarchs every other weekend. Does that not remind you of Trench Crusade? Right? People saying to you, oh, you know, we're on the brink here. We're about to die to all of these demons. And you look at the actual setting and you're going, really? The demons are only over there. Like, and they don't really have a navy. Right. Okay. Right. Now, like, it's one of those things where you're it's Hideo Kojima storytelling, right? Right, they're telling you what's going on, they're not showing you what's going on. Well, the things that they show you are the opposite of what they're telling you. It's like, yes, look at this map, the demons are winning. Then why is 95% of the map held by normal people and not demons? Like, what are you talking about? That's not what's happening at all. You know, you're told you're the underdog despite being, you know, the one in power. Yes. Like the modern day, certain people in the modern day. You know what I mean? Anyway, R.I.P. Grimaldus' character growth. This might be a small discussion point for one of your poetic rants, but I just felt like I wanted to share. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'll see what others will say in the comments. Yeah, well, you will, because we will get people in the comments, I'm sure. Let me just whack up this image you uploaded, because it's pretty cool. It's from the group itself. There we go. Whack that over there. Alright. So. Latest Black Templars Codex lore is unusually grimdark for modern Games Workshop. There's a crusade whose entire shtick is ravaging Imperial worlds they come across, even if they're not explicitly heretical. They'll do unnecessary calls, take people as slaves, kidnap others to forcibly become aspirants, and requisition resources to the point that the planets are often doomed after they leave. There's another crusade where the entire thing is wearing the bones of people, not just chapter champions, but also civilians. Okay, I see what you mean. Complete nonsense. Yeah, this is meme fan fiction. This is what this is. This is what happens when memes make their way back into the fiction. When memes snake their way into the actual fiction. And by the way, you have writers who don't like the meanie part of the Imperium, right? That they're so protective of their lovely modern chapters of Space Marines who can never do any wrong and are totally nice and are, of course, racially diverse. And they're like, all right, you know, we've got this thing over here. Isn't it awesome? Oh, those Black Templars. Oh, they're meanies. Yeah. I'll write them as mean as possible. You know, that kind of a thing. It's like, well, as you just said, you brought up Grimaldus. Grimaldus is heroic because he's grimdark. Like, he is a Black Templar to the bone, right? But he still decides to say, hey, no, I'm not abandoning these people. Why? Because I'm a fucking Space Marine, goddammit. I'm a son of Dawn. I don't run away. I don't tactically retreat, right? These people need me, and I'm going to bar the way with my Crozius. You will go no further. That's a Space Marine, dude. That's a Space Marine of the Imperium, right? That's cool. I'm not saying you can't have Marines Malevolent and like nasty chapters, but making everybody the Marines Malevolent if they don't conform to your Saturday morning cartoon, you know, Uber feels Imperium, you know, the modern Imperium, is just asinine, and is the main reason why a lot of people are walking away. Because if you think this is good, you're missing the point. Yeah, oh, Grimdark's back. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. This is Grim Derp. This is stupid. Okay? And this is what they're making Black Templars now. They're just Saturday morning cartoon villains. They're the opposite side of what all of their favourite chapters are. You know? The studio, as we know, there are activists in there, and you know who I mean. The Black Library, there are activists in the Black Library, we know who they are, you know, who don't like the Imperium. They don't like old school 40k and they want to change it. And making the Black Templars like this is a quite ingenious way of creating a, you know, a contrast, right? They're sacrificing the Black Templars and the Grey Knights, by the way. It's going to happen to them too, with the Terminus Decree. They're sacrificing both forces on the altar of, these are the baddies, these are the meanies, right? and we're all the good guys because we're in the Imperium and we're here to save the day and make sure that everybody has a equally diverse and grey time. Awesome. You know, that kind of just doesn't rock my boat, dude. Really doesn't. But you know, safe to say, I think you're onto something here. But moving on. All right. So, who is this? It's Nathan, and you've called yourself Nathan, so I'm going to use your real name, dude. Good day, Mr. Northern Exile. I wrote incredibly recently to you, and only a few hours later, actually had a situation up that genuinely made not just my day, but potentially the next few months for me. Oh, okay. In the spirit of things being chipper, I hope everything is going well with you and your family. It is, touch wood. This is somewhat of an update on the story I sent, where I was a little let down by how few kill team players there were in my local area, and how most of the 40k players were hardline 2,000 points players. The turnaround on this situation is so great it overshadows the bike incident I got into a few days back, where I was wrecked and detonated a bottle of paint I just bought all over my leg. I plan to not use my pockets to carry paint when I'm riding anymore, but at least I've now got a dedicated painting pants. At least you look on the bright side. That's all I can say. Anyways, my local hobby shop runs a 40k league, and for a while it has been restricted to 2,000 points only. They recently put out a message. It was likely a decision spurred by a conversation that was occurring in the chat on the shop Discord server. A new player was looking to get into the game and was asking about how best to quickly learn the game, and was asking questions about game mechanics. A few of us stepped in to offer advice, provide some videos, and discuss ideas. In that conversation, a common point between a few of us was that we all didn't have the time or units available to play 2,000 point games with him. A few of us have talked about how it wouldn't be a bad idea to get together for some 500 point games so we can practice in on mechanics we wanted to get better at, since sometimes the best way to learn is to do the thing you're working on. That is true, and it's not pushed enough in the codexes or in the rulebooks. 1,500 points to 2,000 points is seen as the tournament meta, and as such, that's what Games Workshop push. But it shouldn't be. 500 points is an ideal, a really good point base for a game. Really fun. The shop must have had an admin or the owner or somebody else and noticed that there was a sizable number of us with situations that would make us pretty much guaranteed to not participate in the league. It's already a small community, and it's a 2-month-long league that gets run fairly consistently, but it is quite stagnant. This is where a message that genuinely made me smile came from. The line still brings a smile to my face even a few days after seeing it, and I quote, "Time to talk about our next league. As part of that, I know that we have some folks looking to join that cannot do 2,000 point games. So, I want to support them playing as well as veterans who want to play the bigger games," unquote. That's... yeah, how good is that? That is a store staying on top of the pulse. That is a store manager or rep doing their job and keeping their finger to the pulse of what people want. It was elaborated on and discussed, but effectively, some of the newer players and people like me who enjoy Kill Team and smaller scale games were being invited in pretty openly. There was a little pushback, and I cannot say that I don't somewhat understand, but overall it was very well received. Well, there's pushback. Here's what I don't like. You still have your 2,000 point league, right? But the people in that league will still do pushback because you're not playing the hobby the right way. That's the kind of tournament attitude bullshit that I don't want to be around. Okay? You 5 to 10 people have got your thing. Okay? The rest, the other 50 people that I've got behind me, yeah, we want to go play smaller narrative games. Well, you can't. That's not what we do around here. Well, actually, we're the majority, so go fuck yourself. Right? I don't like the attitude, dude. I don't get it. Right, sip of tea time. Sip of tea. Lovely. Lovely. Right. Back to it. The way they plan for it to work is that players will be asked to pay their $15 sign-up fee, declare what army they will run, and later solidify the points total they're comfortable fielding. Some players only have combat patrol, and this was a point that some of the 2,000 point player base was rather vocal about. But generally, everybody with at least a handful of minis for their faction is going to have the ability to play. Dude, why are they complaining? You've still got your league. Why are you complaining? Like, I don't get it. Why are you complaining about how other people play your hobby? I always say, tournament games aren't for me, but I respect your right to play the game you want to play. And tournaments should be a part of the hobby. It only seems to be that part of the hobby that has some sort of issue by saying, you know, you're not playing the game the right way. Go fuck yourself, dude. Go fuck yourself. Like, I don't get it. By the way, and if you are a narrative person who lambasts tournament players and says that, you know, they shouldn't be playing in tournaments and tournaments are just, you know, are just terrible, dude, touch grass, right? People will play the hobby how they want to play it. I don't get the attitude at all. Anyway, players with either combat patrol or lower than 2,000 points will be able to play against the higher point players by simply having them bring fewer points. Ah, here we go. This is the problem. Having them bring fewer points or field a proxy combat patrol. Due to the varying points values, they plan to only care about wins and losses rather than the score of each game. Okay, now I see the issue. Okay, so if you're forcing the 2,000 point players to either abandon their own league or participate in this league with fewer points, now I get why they're upset. Okay, if that's the case, yeah, that's pretty shitty. You know, they'd signed up for one thing, and now they're getting another. That's not great. You know, I don't like that at all. Now, if you still had the 2,000 point league, and that was going, and that's how things were, awesome. Right there with you, that's fine. That's awesome. But, like, this doesn't seem that that's how it is. It seems like you're replacing one thing with another. Now, if that wasn't super already great news, things got even better. Okay. A few short days after this announcement, I was at my Yu-Gi-Oh! Locals at the shop, and it turns out one of the people I was talking with about 40k advice saw my name on the sign-up sheet and realised we both enjoy smaller-sized 40k games. The shop offers entirely free first-come, first-served wargaming tables with a few dedicated days each month to wargaming and a few 40k and Sigmar specific events. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. He has a very relaxed schedule and was super interested in setting up a game with me at some point. In my gloom of wishing more people played Kill Team and desiring some 500 to 1000 point 40k games, I found a few kindred spirits. Because I'm not very good at painting, we spent a solid half an hour just talking about ways I could potentially get some detail on my Black Templars. I have decided will be painted in a more historical white and red scheme. I have never had this many positive interactions and conversations around 40k in the entire time I have been in the hobby. Honestly, the next few weeks are looking bright and I'm excited to see how things go. Hopefully, it's going to be nightmare free. Regards, Nathan. Well, I'm very happy that it's working out for you, man. I'm really happy. I think that's really cool. It just shows you, like, if you build it, they will come. Like, if you put the word out, eventually you will get people who go, yeah, that's what I like about the hobby as well. I like that about the hobby too. And you get in together and you start playing your games and you have fun. So yeah, I completely agree. I think you've done an amazing job. But that is it. I felt like people needed to pick me up after quite a tough week in the world. So there we are. We've got a bit of a pick me up. And I will be back over the weekend for a live stream at some point. And then we'll be back on Monday with some more hobby nightmares. If you have any hobby nightmares to send in, make sure you send them over to hobbynightmares@gmail.com. That is hobbynightmares, all one word, @gmail.com. Send them over there and I'll get them read out as soon as I can. Alright? Make sure you have a wonderful weekend. Make sure you look after yourselves, and as Spring used to say, and each other. And I'll see you very, very soon. Alright? Have a good one. Bye now.